everybody, I'm Carolyn Braden, and welcome to Turning the Ordinary into the Extraordinary. I've shown you how to do other things on some of my other videos, so you might want to check out some of them on YouTube. This here is my assistant Phoebe, and she is going to show us, or help show us today, how to make pom-poms. And you ask, like, what are you talking about, cheerleader pom-poms? No, not those kinds of pom-poms. The kind of pom-poms that little girls want to put in their hair, or like I wanted to learn how to make them to put on the vintage roller skates that I found. I've cleaned them all up and I'm about to paint them, which will be another project that I'll show you how to do. But I want to put them right here on my roller skates like I had probably when I was a little girl. So I started making these at school because I'm teaching right now, and the little girls were just watching me make these because they were doing their projects and I was doing mine, and I was like making my pom-poms, trying to figure out how to do it, and they were like, "What are you doing, Miss Braden?" And I said, "I'm making pom-poms," and they looked at them and they were like, "You could put those in your hair." And I was like, "Yeah, you could. Will you teach us some?" they asked. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not? We'll learn how to do it sometime." So I thought, well, if my students are wanting to learn how to do these pom-poms, then I know your little girls will probably want to know how to do them because they want to put them in their hair for school. With the economy today, instead of going out and buying these hair things, why don't you just learn how to make them? So this is one that I was working on for school, and I frayed it and I made it 2 colors. And then this one was a little bit bigger. That would be a little bit more fluffier if I fluffed out the yarn here. But I will show you how to make a very simple, easy, and it's very, very quick. You take a piece of poster board and you cut it down to, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget because I always forget measurements. A piece of poster board or flexible cardboard that's 5.5 inches long and 2 inches wide. So I did that here, and then you pick the kinds of yarn that you want. You can do 1 color, 2 color, 3 color. It's totally up to you. I am going to do a 1 color pom-pom right here, and then I might add a little bit of white into it because it's eventually what I want. I have cut it into the 2 inches wide and the 5.5 inches long. And she's going to play with the yarn. Are you going to play with the yarn? This isn't for you, Phoebe. This is for everybody out there in YouTube world. And I have ran around and around and around and around and around my yarn on this piece of poster board that I cut down to size. You can't play. You've got to watch this. You said you were going to help me. You said you were going to help me. I'm going to keep winding it around and around and around. And basically your purpose of this part of the project is to cover all of the poster board up. Of course, if you want a bigger pom-pom, you would make your poster board piece bigger. And if you wanted a smaller pom-pom, you would make your poster board a little bit smaller. There's lots of possibilities to this project. You can also turn these into tassels. If you could figure out how to do that, like tassels, you could do like embroidery floss and put tassels on your curtains and things like that. There's lots of possibilities for this project. So I'm just going to keep winding, and I've already started this one earlier just to kind of show you. I'm just going to wind and wind and wind and wind and wind and wind and wind. And you watching? Are you watching like everybody else should be? And winding. And then I've got it on just like this all over it here. And you're about to pounce, aren't you? Then I'm going to take it and I'm just going to cut it off. Just like that. Then you could probably just tuck it among some of the other ones because eventually this is going to be tied off, so you don't really have to worry about tying it. I'm going to kind of bend my cardboard a little bit because it's going to make the next part a lot easier. Then take whatever color you want. If you wanted to add in the second color at this point, this is when you would just wind and wind and wind and wind the second color over the first color. Now you need to take a piece of yarn like this. And it doesn't really matter how long, as long as it's going to be a little bit longer than this here. You are playful tonight. You're usually asleep. You're usually asleep, Phoebe. I'm just going to take the yarn and I'm going to put it down through the middle of this little kind of cardboard tube that I have created here. And you just kind of want to wiggle it down, wiggle it down, wiggle it down, just like this. Oh, you're watching, Phoebe. You're watching. You need to learn how, maybe we'll put this in your hair when we're finished. We could do this in your hair. Then I'm going to take it and start tying it off into just like so. Tying it off just like this. And basically this will start gathering it and gathering it and gathering it like this into the center. And that's exactly what you want to have happen. That's why this needs to kind of be flexible, flexible, flexible cardboard. Now I'm going to just take it and kind of hold it. I don't want to quite knot it up yet. And I might twist it a little bit. Tie it a little bit tighter. Got it a little bit tighter here and twist. Okay. Now, here comes the cutting off part. That's why I haven't tied it yet, because when you cut it off, it might need to be a little bit tighter. Now I'm going to take my scissors and right down the center here, I'm going to start cutting. Cutting, cutting, cutting. And this will kind of start turning it into the pom-pom. I'm just going to cut right down the center here. I'm using pretty sharp scissors, so if kids are doing this, you might want to monitor them. That way they don't hurt themselves. And I'm just cutting and cutting and cutting, just like giving it a haircut. Are you giving this a haircut? Do you see that, Phoebe? I'm giving it a haircut here. Do you see I'm giving it a haircut, Phoebe? And I'm just kind of snipping away right in the center. It looks just like this. Snipping and snipping and snipping it as I'm going down. That's why your poster board needs to be flexible, because it needs to be able to bend when you do this part. Cutting and cutting and cutting, cutting and cutting and cutting, cutting and cutting and cutting, and voila! We've cut it all off like this. Now I kind of have it like a pom-pom a little bit, and then this is the part where I kind of want to untwist what I started. I twisted it to hold it nice and tight. Tighten your first tie a little bit, and you're really watching this. Tightening it and tightening it. Now is when you want to knot it. So I'm going to turn it into a knot now, keeping it nice and tight. And of course, it'll be lots and lots thicker the more yarn that you add as you go through on the piece of poster board. If you want to add a second color and a third color and fourth color, it'll make it really, 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 really thick. And if that's what the look you're going for, then that's fine. And then I have my pom-pom.